This episode of the Reverend's Big Ol' Wall of Film is brought to you by Counting Worm Shop and the Reverend Jess Movie Drop Project. Check out the links in the description and support some local art that supports the show. Hey, do you want to watch a movie? Yeah, I do. What movie? The film we're discussing. The film we're discussing. The film we're discussing has its own special spot in the big ol' wall of films. The Reverend's Big Ol' Wall of Films. Greetings and salutations to all you movie lovers out there. I am your host, Reverend Jess, and you are listening to the Reverend's Big Ol' Wall of Film, the self-indulgent one-man podcast from myself, Reverend Jess. If you don't know what the show is, maybe you didn't listen to the first episode, you should, but for those of you that don't know, I am someone who has dedicated his life to collecting home media while I still can. And, this is my attempt to document it because I got sick of cataloging. But I also feel like it's another way for me to discuss movies that I love. Pretty bare bones. Doesn't take a lot. But yeah. So, after putting up the first episode, I'm feeling pretty good. I feel like maybe this idea could be good for me, realistically, I think that I like creating things and have done multiple podcasts in the past, but this is the first time it's really just been me talking to you directly. Obviously, I'm recording this after, a couple days of it being up, so we haven't had any, responses in terms of emails or anything like that, but I did run the gamut and get it up on various little podcast apps and what have you. So if that is how you're listening to it on something other than Anchor, welcome. Thank you for checking out the show and giving me my own little vanity project for you to enjoy. But yeah, for those of you that didn't listen to the first episode and don't feel like going back, welcome. But yeah, we'll get into the first brunt of the show, which is, of course, the new arrivals. Hey, guess what? I got some new movies going up on the wall today. This is what are the new arrivals on the Reverend's Big Ol' Wall of Films. That's right, folks, the new arrivals, where I talk about what my journeys into various secondhand stores and exchanges and thrift stores and what have you has led me to obtain. Of course, last week we talked about how I picked up The Game and haven't watched it yet, and also Kung Fu Panda 2, for example. You'll notice that I have very, very wide taste when it comes to movies. It doesn't take much. But yeah, so some more new arrivals. Obviously, because this is being recorded in a week span, I haven't necessarily had a chance to go to the store today, but recently I did pick up A Perfect Getaway with Steve Zahn. Haven't seen it, haven't watched it, but I've heard good things. I've heard that as far as action movies and mystery thrillers go, it's pretty good. I know Ryan Hollinger on YouTube did a video about it. I didn't watch it for fear of spoilers, but, hey, what can you do? I also picked up Rear Window. For those of you that are not as well versed in classic cinema, Alfred fucking Hitchcock right there. And maybe you've seen the movie that was sort of a modern retelling of it, which was, of course, Disturbia with Shia LaBeouf. But yeah, I also picked up the director's cut of Amadeus. Recently picked up Everything Everywhere All at Once, which was incredible, and I can't wait to discuss that a little more in depth when we finally do get to it. But yeah, it's a very short instance of new arrivals today, and a good portion of them are always going to be standard DVD. I don't think you really get that lucky in the second-hand stores to get your hands on something that's like a Criterion edition. I only have a few Criterion, but I know, people out there adamantly collect them, which is understandable. As far as like home media goes, you're not going to find a better situation, as far as home media goes, and like the special features and all the shit that's included with it. So yeah, I definitely wish that, whenever I have found a Criterion just in the thrift store or what have you, I've definitely snatched it up really quick, even if I'm not even that big of a fan of the movie. I definitely have the Criterion edition of The Rock, which I do love that movie, because it's Nicolas Cage, but I also plan to pick up Armageddon if I see it for cheap enough, and I'm not really a fan of that movie, so yeah. But either way, folks, what movies do you think, older movies, would you recommend? Would you recommend that I pick up? And if for some reason you aren't sure if I have it already, go to letterboxd.com, search for the username AcclaimShamePod, and you'll see a list of my entire movie collection. So if you see a movie that you recommend in there, just shoot me an email. Just be like, hey, this is what I recommend for you. But yeah, that's it for the new arrivals today. And we're going to go ahead and go into the main brunt of the show. For those of you that don't know, this show is a pretty short show. Usually stays between half hour, between 20 minutes to a half hour type of time there. But yeah, we're going to go into the main brunt of the show, and that's, of course, when we go over to the wall and we pick out a film. So let's take a look-see and see what we're talking about today.
Let me stumble over to the family room that's down the hall. Grab myself a movie that sits on the movie wall. It's the movie we're discussing, so just sit right back and chill. It's the Reverend and his big old wall of films.
Okay, folks, I know what movie I want to discuss today, and yeah, this one's a doozy. If you haven't seen it, I highly recommend it. It is a 2016 A24 produced film from the directing team known as Daniels, who you might know from a movie that I introduced a little bit earlier, Everything Everywhere All at Once. It is their 2016 feature film debut, actually. It's the first film they ever did. And that, of course, is Paul Dano and Daniel Radcliffe starring in Swiss Army Man. And I will tell you, folks, the first time that I saw this movie, I was completely and utterly amazed. Because if you haven't seen this film, fair warning, there is spoilers. Every single time that we talk about a movie, it's going to be major or minor spoilers. It could be both. It could be one of them. Who knows? But this is a film that is special, in my opinion. And it's not very high intelligence. It's not very classy in its humor. But it does have a lot of heart in it. And if you haven't seen the movie, I'll tell you a little bit about it. It stars Paul Dano, who you might know from There Will Be Blood, Little Miss Sunshine, or even the most recent Batman movie. He played the Riddler. He is a man who is stuck on an island, completely like shipwrecked, and he reaches a point where he's going to kill himself, and a body washes up on the shore. And that's about all I can tell you if you don't want spoilers. But if you do like spoilers, if you don't care because you've seen it, keep listening. And as we all know, the movie stars Paul Dano as the gentleman. And goes over to this body because it's the first other entity that he's seen since he's been on the island. Come to find out that it's, of course, dead. So he decides that he's just going to go ahead and kill himself, but of course the body begins flatulating pretty heavily to the point where he's able to mount that dead body and ride it as a jet ski to go to safety. And, it just picks up from there. It's a story of survival. It is a story of unlikely companionship. It is a story about learning and growing as a person, because the corpse can fucking talk. Daniel Radcliffe isn't just a body in this movie. He is a corpse that is able to speak and provide any basic need that you need whenever you're shipwrecked on an island. But yeah, they decide that they're going to voyage on home with the help of Manny, the dead body, and get back to civilization. And along the way, Paul Dano, who is clearly a character that you see from, various flashbacks and things like that, that he's not a social butterfly himself. He's definitely kind of awkward. His only type of memento from the world that he used to know is a picture that he took on a bus of someone that didn't even know he was taking their picture. But, of course, he is absolutely infatuated with that woman that he took a picture of. But it is interesting because he is simply basing things off of stories that he's heard, movies that he's seen, things like Jurassic Park. If you don't know Jurassic Park, you don't know shit. That's one of the lines in the movie. But this movie is, number one, shot incredibly. Daniels, the directing team, did not, this is their first feature film. They had only done music videos and short films up to that point. And of course, you would think that they would just be finding their footing. If you look at something like Kevin Smith's first movie, some of the shots aren't great. They're pretty standard. It's shot like a sitcom. But Daniels gets these interesting angles, and the way that they communicate intensity or sadness or longing in certain scenes is just incredible. And the soundtrack in this fucking movie is amazing. Not only do you have really awesome scores, but you also have songs that were constructed for the film that have a bass in a cappella. And it's really like that intro song that you heard just a little bit ago. It exists in the film as something that Paul Dano's character is doing, which is a really interesting way to communicate your soundtrack. And of course, there's the other track, Montage, that was a single. It was released as a single in a music video, and it narrates the entire thing that's going on with a humor that is similar to South Park. There's moments where it's now we just killed a raccoon. It's hilarious. But this movie is, you take what is a ridiculous premise about this farting corpse, and you make it a story about what it is to be human and what it is to be alive and to live a life worth living. And it's just a really incredible story. There's a lot of heart in this movie. This movie did make me tear up. For those of you that don't know me personally, I do cry at movies if it gets me the right way. I definitely envelop myself into a story. So this was one of those ones that had me in tears at the end. And it's a beautiful, beautiful film. As far as the likes, obviously there's so much to like here. Not only do you have, amazing soundtrack, you have a really great camera direction, but the performances from both Paul Dano and Daniel Radcliffe, because that's all that this movie is. You really have, it is a two-person film. And I'm sorry, but there's a couple films out there that are two-person films that I find fucking boring. I'm sorry, but Gus Van Sant's Jerry, and I understand Gus Van Sant is a very art housey director. Yeah, I get that, but I'm sorry, the Death Trilogy, the only one that I think is bearable to watch is probably Elephant, because Last Days had me fucking falling asleep, and Jerry is boring as fuck too. But and if you disagree with me on that, shoot me an email. We'll talk about it. I'll give you your thoughts as well. But yeah, the two performances are amazing. And it's so awesome to see Daniel Radcliffe, in these roles. I think that Daniel Radcliffe, post Harry Potter, the smartest thing that he did was put himself in these strange, independent roles, because when he tried to do, your standard mainstream Hollywood film, when he tried to do something like The Woman in Black in 2009, it was a movie that made no noise whatsoever, because it's Daniel Radcliffe, but it's not Harry Potter. And that's the thing. Daniel Radcliffe, as an actor, has so much to bring. Side note, I'm really excited to see the Weird Al story. Daniel Radcliffe playing Weird Al. I think that's going to be incredible. But that's neither here nor there. Paul Dano. Paul Dano is a force in this movie who plays a role that it's comfortable for him, definitely, because it's very similar to the roles that he played in things like Little Miss Sunshine, where he was, an introverted, quiet loner. But you can tell that his character is very, very much like myself, where, a good portion of how he knows socially to act is through movies and television, And not only that, but there's just, this isn't Castaway. Castaway is a film, a single performance film that's very dramatic, everything like that. This movie is just fun. And it really makes you contemplate. I remember watching a YouTube video that said that this whole movie is an allegory for being transgender. Now, don't get me wrong, I personally don't see it that way, but I think that's awesome that you could relate that to this movie. Because I think that the best stories that are told are stories that you can see yourself in. I'm not saying that every single movie has to be like real life. What I'm saying is that there at least needs to be characters that you can identify with, characters that you can understand for as a personal, preference, or your personal avatar, if you will. Like if in a group ensemble movie, who am I going to be? Who is my character in this? Who do I most relate to? So I think that's really cool that people can look at it in that way. Realistically, I don't think you could do that for all movies. Die Hard. John McClane. His ease of killing people is because he has such inner rage, much like a transgender person. Realistically, you can't. I mean, if you do, if you do find that thought process, fair enough. But yeah, I just think that it's really cool that people can look at movies through that lens and relate to them on that level. And I think that the reason that Swiss Army Man works on such a level is because of the character of Paul Dano being so introverted and so uncomfortable with society. And it even carries itself to the end of the film when he is sitting there and trying to convince these people, you don't understand, this corpse is magic. He has all these abilities. Manny, you have to show them. And they all look at him like he's insane. And you get that moment of relief when Manny goes back into the water with that big smile on his face, showing just how incredible that he is. And it's beautiful. I love the music in this film. I love the heart. I love the comedy. There's a lot of great lines. Realistically, this movie is top tier, and it's even more impressive that it is the first film from Daniels. So, definitely something to consider there. But yeah. So, other than that, folks, my dislikes, I would say that the movie's ending is a little cliche, but and there's still a little bit of a story there. He finally made it back to civilization, and they just blindly accept, oh yeah, that was a farting corpse that saved him. But you just look past that. Other than that, I really don't have a dislike. I will say a dislike for the DVD is probably the lack of intense special features, personally. I really like special features on a DVD, and this one is simple. Now, I don't have the Blu-ray. The Blu-ray could have more special features on it, as companies are known to do these days. But, yeah, other than that, folks, hands down, one of my favorite movies of all time. As far as a rating goes, this absolutely gets a 5. Not only is it one of my favorites, as soon as I had the money to buy it, I bought it. And yeah, I've never looked back. I definitely have tried to show it to my girlfriend, but I don't think it's not really her thing. But yeah, other than that, it's an incredible film. If you haven't watched it, please do. Even if you listen to all the spoilers for some reason, definitely still check it out. Check it out. Go and watch it. Check out Everything Everywhere All at Once. Basically, support Daniels because they have an amazing voice in cinema. But yeah, other than that, folks, I don't think I have much more else to say about it. Definitely check out the Blu-ray. You could probably find it for pretty cheap in the stores, but it's worth picking up. Definitely worth picking up. A24 once again puts out some of the most interesting films of this generation. So, and this is one of them. But yeah, other than that, folks, I think that's going to do it for this instance of the Reverend's Big Old Wall of Films. And of course, please, if you have opinions on Swiss Army Man or any of the other episodes you've possibly listened to or haven't listened to, and you want to talk about the films that we discuss here on the Big Old Wall of Film, please shoot me an email. You can reach it at bigolwallofilms@gmail.com. There is a link in the description, and not only that, but you can hit me up on Twitter at RevJess_FL Radio. Or, if you want to check out the Instagram where I post stupid doodles like the ones you see on the artwork for this podcast, you can find that at, of course, the one and only at RevJess_FatLols Radio. But yeah, until next time, folks, take care of yourselves and each other, or whatever Jerry Springer says. And yeah, all in all, that was just another film in the wall. You guys take care of yourselves, and I can't wait to talk to you next week.
Join us here next week on Reverend's Big Old Wall of Films. The film we're discussing. The film we're discussing. The film we're discussing has its own special spot in the Big Old Wall of Film. The Reverend's Big Old Wall of Film.
The Reverend's Big Old Wall of Films is brought to you by Fat Lowell's Radio and sponsored by Counting Worm Shop and the Rev Just Movie Drop Project.